please give a warm welcome to Kevin McMullin.
Thanks. It was a good omen when 30 seconds before we were supposed to start, slides start working. So cheers for the TINYcon team for getting that going. Thank you. So last week, as I was putting the finishing touches on this presentation, you guys might be familiar with Adam Grant, who's a professor of social psychology at the Wharton School. He's written a couple of bestsellers. And I came across this article, Your Company's Culture is Not Unique. And he wrote the article, or he's featured in the article, and what he talks about is he visits all these companies, and he said everywhere he goes, he hears the CEOs and the leadership tell him, our culture is really unique here. And he always asks, well, what's unique about it? And he said they all say the same thing. They say, well, people are really passionate about our mission. We work with integrity. We give our people unusual amounts of flexibility. We have all these great benefits that nobody else offers. And he says, it's just the same platitudes over and over and over again. So my first piece of advice to you is don't read articles like this 1 week before you come to talk about your company's culture at a conference. But it was actually a good reminder because we know, like, you don't come to a conference like this if you're not already committed to creating a great work environment for your people. And so, just a short summary of kind of CollegeWise and who we are and what we do, and like what I hope I might be able to share that could be useful. So that doesn't show up well, but we're a college admissions counseling company, meaning families hire us to help their kids get into college. And in 1999, I started this little business out of my apartment, and I drove to kids' houses and help them fill out college applications at the kitchen table. And so here we are 19 years later. We're not a large company at all. We've got about 80 employees, but for us it feels big, going from 1 to 80. We've got 25 offices domestically, 3 internationally. And so these families come in and sit down with the college admissions expert to help them through this really stressful time. And we've got a team of counselors now in each office that, in the time that they're not meeting with kids, can talk about different colleges, different ways of getting in, different ways that they're reaching these kids and getting these results that they're hoping to achieve. And so last week was a big week for us. We were finally able to announce that about 6 months ago, we were approached by Michelle Obama and her team at her initiative Reach Higher, which is about increasing college access for under-resourced kids. And we've officially partnered with them. More importantly, Reach Higher's Twitter feed gave me what will be my screensaver forever. It is now this, and it lives on my computer. This is, if I have a bad day at work now, this is what I look at. But beyond this, there's a lot of things about CollegeWise that are not unique that you guys could say about your places of work. I could say things like, our people really like each other. It's a happy place to work. People are committed here. Each of our offices has a little holiday party at the end of the year. We do fun things like have a dodgeball team in some of our offices. We have a company retreat every year with a really good party. No, seriously, it's a really good party. People really like it. We have a formal night at that retreat where everybody gets gussied up and feels really good about themselves. We had a talent show last year. One year, you can't tell they're dressed as pirates. One year we had a party on a pirate ship. If you are not doing these things identically or similar things, I would be really surprised. So none of that, I think, makes us unique. I don't have things to share around that. But last year we commissioned the Gallup organization to come in and do a study of our employee engagement. It's a service that they offer, and they have 12 statements that they send out in a survey to employees, and employees rank them on a scale of 1 to 5. How strongly do you agree with each of these statements? And the Gallup organization has spent 30 years studying workplaces, and they've identified that these 12 statements and the degree to which employees agree with them are the best measure of the health of a workplace. And that if you can get strong yeses, strongly agrees to all 12 of these questions, you will have built a highly engaged, healthy place to work. When we did this in 2017, our score was 4.45, which if you can't see, that's out of 5, and if you can't see the fine print at the bottom, our percentile ranking was the 98th percentile, which means of the 25 million employees they've given this survey to in 195 different countries, we were in the 98th percentile for our results. And we did the study again this year and finished at 4.47, which again is in the 98th percentile. So as I thought about what to share coming here today, I thought, well, everybody here has things that you are doing for your employees that are effective and work for them. I don't know your companies. I don't know your employees. I don't know the unique challenges that you have. And I'm not, so full of myself as to think that I can come and teach everybody how to make great places to work. But we have done some things at CollegeWise that have worked really well for us. So I'd like to share them with you. Take the ones that you think might make sense for you. If that's all of them, great. If it's just a few of them, great. I think that's kind of what we try to do at conferences like this. I was telling Tyler and some of the other organizers ahead of time, one of the things I love about a conference like this is that nobody is here halfway in. Everybody is here because you care about this. It's something you want to go back to work and you want to make these kinds of changes. And the story for me about how I kind of tripped over these things and started learning it actually began in New York City at the last job I had over 20 years ago before I started this company. I was 25 years old, and I got promoted in my company to go work at the corporate headquarters in New York City, and I was all excited about it. I'm going to make it here in New York City, and I had this great job. I told all my friends and my family about it, and I got there on the first day of work. I was early, not really early, just about 10 minutes early, and the front door was locked to the building, and I thought, oh, okay, what am I going to do here? So I waited a few minutes, and then people started showing up, and I saw, well, they've all got these badges on. They're like key cards. And, oh, okay, it would have been nice to have one of those, but that's all right. So now I've got to convince somebody to let me follow them in, a stranger, which is not a guarantee to be able to do that on the corner of 84th and Broadway in New York City. People don't just let strangers into buildings. But so I get into the building, and I go find my boss's office. They say, hey, Paul, good to see you. And he says, oh, Kevin, hey, good to see you here. Welcome to New York. Listen, I'm going to be tied up most of the day, but here's your office right down here. I'll try to check in with you. Let me know if you have any questions. And I went into my office, and it was just an empty desk with no computer, no phone, no nothing. This is not the actual empty desk, but it looked pretty much exactly like that. So I spent the whole first day and really the whole first week just trying to get the things I needed to get started. So that first day, I got to get a computer, and I kind of start awkwardly poking my head into other people's offices. Hey, I'm Kevin. Where do you go to get a computer? And, oh, you got to go see Chuck. Where's Chuck? He's on the 3rd floor. So I go to the stairs. There's a doorway. Well, you need one of those badges to get up to the 3rd floor. So I go and I ask somebody else, hey, where do I get one of those badges? Oh, you got to see Joseph in facilities. Where's Joseph? You can see the punchline. He's up on the 3rd floor. Oh, you mean the floor where I need a badge to get up? So that was just my entire first week. But the thing that really hit home for me, and that I think replicates itself for so many employees, is when I got home that night from my first day at work, of course, everyone in my family reached out to me. How was your first day at work? And that entire first week, people kept asking me, my friends, reaching out, hey, how was the first week in New York? And I kind of made excuses about, oh, it's fine, I'm getting settled, I'm excited about it, I think it'll work out great. But I thought to myself several things, one of which was, these guys just paid me for a whole week to be here, and I've done almost no work so far. Secondly, it was like a hangover at work that I never quite got. It took a long time for me to get over that. I thought this is the opposite of getting off to a good start. And the thing that was most puzzling was my boss was actually a good guy, a fundamentally good-hearted, good guy. And I thought to myself, if his wife went and had a first day of work somewhere and came home and told him this exact experience, I think he'd be really frustrated on her behalf. Or if his son or his daughter graduated from college and said, hey, Dad, I got my first job and I'm starting on Monday, and he checked in with them at the end of the first day, he probably would have been really frustrated on their behalf. And it made me realize that a lot of us, we struggle with, we treat people a certain way in our personal lives, and then we sort of switch to a professional mode when we go to work, which in many ways is healthy and it's an appropriate boundary, but in a lot of ways we leave some of our humanity behind. And I think that there's a reality in place that humans appreciate genuine acts from other humans, even in the workplace. And it made me start to think about, as I began this company, well, how would I want my partner or my child or my best friend to be treated in these moments? Not all day, every day, but that helps you. I mean, I need to be clear here. There's no part of me that is saying, you should treat your employees like you do your significant other. I know this is being filmed, so let me go on record. I am not saying that you should treat your employees like you do your significant other. But each of these individuals is an individual human being. And I think a way to think about what is an appropriate and healthy and good way to get them engaged is, well, if it were your own child, if it were your partner, how would you want them treated in these moments at work? And so I kind of asked myself those questions as I began our company. And that really started with our first days at work. That when we began hiring people at CollegeWise, I thought, all right, there are two things that are my desired outcomes for someone on their first day at work at CollegeWise. Number one, I want them to hear in every way possible, we are thrilled that you are here. Not, we're really excited to have filled this position, but we are thrilled that you are here specifically. And I want to give them a great story to tell, that when they go home and their family and their friends ask them, how was your first day? I want to make sure they've really got something to say. So We got the basics right. Nobody comes into an empty desk, and things that probably most of you do. They've got a computer, they've got an email address, they've got a phone, they've got keys to get into the building when they get to work. We have a list of places they can go get lunch. We plan a whole day for them to make sure that it's structured and they're not poking their heads into people's offices. Not anything that's unique around employee orientations, I don't believe. But one of the things that we did that has just had surprising lift for us, and we're a company that helps kids get into college, is we have a pennant made for them in their alma mater's colors with their name on it. We ask them in their employee questionnaire before they start, do you drink coffee or tea, yes or no? And if they do, we get them a mug from their alma mater. If they don't, we get them a water bottle. But these pennants, which admittedly, this is appropriate for our business. If you work in a law firm and you're hiring corporate attorneys that bill out at $500 an hour, I would probably not give them something like this on their first day. You probably don't want that up in their office. But for us, it looks like a silly craft project, and it is. In fact, that one in the upper left is, in the early years, we did this ourselves with, scissors, and we were cutting them out. Now, you go to Etsy, they're like $20, and they'll make them for you. I cannot overstate the lift that people get from receiving one of these. I had a woman in her mid-30s tell me, this is the most thoughtful thing an employer has ever done for me. And I thought, this is the most thoughtful thing an employer has ever done for you? But it makes an impact on people, this silly little thing that's just for them. But it communicates, we are thrilled that you are here, and it gives them a story to tell. I always travel down for the first day of orientation, wherever we're doing this. It's usually in Southern California where our headquarters is, and I now live here and work remotely. And that's me at the head of the table with a group of new hires on their first day. And after I do the first hour of orientation, before we release them onto their training and the rest of that, I go around the room to each individual person and tell them how many people applied for their job. It's always at least 150 to 200 people. And I tell them specifically what resonated for us about them. This is the line in your cover letter that made us reach out to you. This is the answer you gave us in the interview that made us think she's one of us. This is the thing that your reference told us about, the person you said was also your mentor, that we thought this is a person we need to have on our team. And it communicates to them, we are thrilled that you are here. We're not just happy to have the position filled, this is really about you. And we try to continue that with everything we do on that first day and really through the entire first week. We take them out to a dinner after their first day, and you can tell if you can see this picture, this is not a 5-star restaurant, this is pizza and beer. That's not much of a story to tell, but what you can't tell until I identify it is that's our CEO, that's our general manager, that's our executive director of talent, and that's our chief academic officer. I'm the one taking the photo. So all of those people out of a team of maybe our 6 highest ranking executives show up for the first day of work. And this is so important to us that we plan our employee orientations a year in advance. We don't just hire continuously. We say, these are the 5 times this year we're going to do hirings. And we do that specifically so we can structure these things. And we can tell our CEO, these are the 5 Wednesday nights in 2018 you need to be available to come to a pizza night. And it makes a huge difference for people getting their start there. You can see they leave that first day and that first week feeling like, I have really made a good decision being here. And of course, we've got to carry it on from there, or it becomes just a big ruse. It's like the person who presents really well on the first date and then everything falls apart after that. You've got to show that you have more after that, but we have learned over the years doing this how much lift we get from that and how much energy they have when they come back to their next week of work. And so as we started thinking about other things that we could do, we looked around at sort of milestones in people's lives. Now, there's a reason why the office birthday, the little office birthday celebration, is satirized on television shows like The Office, which you can see the sign that says, "It is your birthday." It was a statement of fact they shared. Or in the movie Office Space, they talk about this. And you guys have all been there. Maybe you get a card from people where 40 different people sign it, and they all say happy birthday. And if there's anything personal, it says, happy birthday, old man. Hope it's a good one. We do normal birthday stuff, but we thought, what else could we do that's different that people might talk about? And we thought, well, let's start celebrating people's work anniversaries. Like, you have been here for 1 year. Let's recognize that. Let's acknowledge that. And so we started just congratulating them. We made it like a public thing. We'd send out an email on their first year. We'd give them like a framed certificate that said congrats on 1 year of service. But they talked about this. And more importantly, and this was a great lesson for us, once we started doing it and kind of inculcating it into our culture where it just became a thing that we do, we oftentimes didn't even have to do it ourselves. Sometimes we would come in, the managers would come in, and a colleague would already have posted something on our workplace chat group. Shout out to my partner in crime in our office who's celebrating 3 years. Like, they're doing this for each other. I had thought about doing this when in my mind, I traveled back to New York City, and I remember that same company when someone celebrated their 10-year anniversary, and their celebration looked like it happened to take place on the day that we had our all-hands meeting where the CEO gives a talk. And at the end of that talk, as everybody was leaving, this guy's boss said, "Oh, wait, before everybody leaves, I just wanted to acknowledge Ian, who is celebrating 10 years here today," and he hands him a bottle of Jack Daniels. Now, Ian didn't even drink Jack Daniels, which is not really the point, but it is emblematic of the point. And I remember thinking, even at that very moment, he's going to go back to his office and start thinking about where he wants to work next. And you just did that in front of 100 people in this room and told them, this is what you can expect on your 10-year anniversary. So this is kind of why we started trying to set a good precedent here. And even though some of ours are very small when they're early anniversaries, this is our team in Singapore. Our team in Singapore does not have on-site management. Their manager is 8,000 miles away, and I think it's 15 hours of time difference. But without us having to oversee it, this was posted in our company chat. I don't know which one of her colleagues made this happen, but someone just did it. And so, we work with good people, and when we set an example for them, they'll take these things and run with it. We didn't tell anyone that was their responsibility. We had a really good opportunity last year. Our first employee after me celebrated a 10-year uninterrupted run of employment at CollegeWise, and we thought, this is an opportunity to show this company what you can expect, and I wanted to do the opposite of what I saw at that New York company where I worked. And so we started planning it 6 months ahead of time. We reached out to her husband and said, hey, we'd love to get your help to plan kind of a surprise thing for her. And he said, I'm totally in. I'll tell you what her favorite restaurant is. And we planned it. So I wish you could see this. This is her face coming into the restaurant where she saw. She's there with her. Those are her two best friends at work, one of whom we flew in for this. Our entire executive team was there. This is her mom, who we brought in to be there to celebrate this with us. If you get the family members feeling really good about where their special people work, that really helps you. It creates a good vibe about your work. This is the cake that we gave her. And this is her post that she put on social media the next day. And now, nobody here needs to be convinced of this, but you hear people say things like, it's not personal, it's just work. Well, when somebody says, I'm so grateful and my heart is so full, and they got that from work, what kind of work are you going to get from them when they come back the next day? And I think the reality here, which I know we all embrace, it's the reason we come to this thing, is work is personal for the person doing the work. So we can say it's just a job, but it's really not just a job, at least for them. And the more that we can embrace that, then the more of that special, unique, human quality you get from each one of these people that are working for you. And none of these things that we're doing are particularly innovative or difficult to do. They're just these key moments that make people feel seen and appreciated at work. And so I thought a little bit about the kinds of reasons that, well, this is unlikely that any of you would do this, but that we might think, well, we can't do this at my job. What's more likely is you might hear reasons from your bosses or from people at work why we couldn't do this kind of thing. And one of them might be, well, this doesn't seem all that revolutionary, like making little pennants for people or doing something. And I would agree with you. It's actually not revolutionary. Although I did stumble on something last year that made me realize that we had inadvertently been doing something perhaps much smarter than we even I'd realized. I read this book last year called The Power of Moments. It's written by Chip and Dan Heath. They're brothers, and one of them is a professor at the Stanford Business School, the other at Duke. And the premise of the book is that great experiences hinge on key moments. And they talk about how psychologists have identified that none of us remember experiences fairly. Our memories don't operate fairly. Our memories don't look at an experience, whether it's one day or a week or a month or 10 years. Our memories don't look back over that time and evaluate each individual instance, add them up, and then take the sum average of all of those. Instead, we remember peaks, and peaks can be high or they can be low. And the example they give is, if any of you have ever taken a vacation to Disneyland or Disney World, particularly if you go with your kids, you remember it as a positive thing, but a lot of that is not so positive. Like traveling there is not so positive. The obscene price to get in. You spend most of your day waiting in line. You eat terrible food that costs 5 times as much as it should. It's always either the hottest day of the year or raining. There's never any in between, right? But then you have that moment that you're on Space Mountain, or you get that picture of your kid with Minnie Mouse, and there are these things that happen that your mind assigns great value and great weight to, and then you look back on it and you say, that was great. And that's a big deal. One of the things that they say in the book that was a great litmus test, they said, the way you can tell if it's a key moment, do people get their phones out to take a picture of it? If they do that, it is a key moment. It is something they want to remember, they want to capture. And you see this happening not just at work, not just in the personal, I mean, it's everywhere. In fact, in the last couple weeks, you've probably seen this on your social media feeds. Pictures of the first day of school. Somebody's a kindergartner this year. How many of you have kids? I won't speak for you, but anyone who says, I have 2 myself, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, anyone who says parenting is the greatest joy in life, I promise you, they are looking at peak moments of that experience. But a licensed driver in the house, that's a peak moment. A parent wants to capture that. Kid graduating from college is a peak moment. These are things that people want to get. The first dance at a wedding. If you guys that are married, you look back on your wedding, you don't remember everything about the wedding, but you remember these key moments that happen, and it becomes this really special thing for you. And this is the revolutionary part of this book, is they point out key moments can be intentionally created. You don't just have to leave them to chance. And I thought, that is what we've been doing. We have been doing that at our job. I didn't realize that's what we were doing, but you look around for examples of this. That's a key moment in someone's personal life that doesn't just happen by itself. Neither does that one. First day of kindergarten and first day of medical school is not something that just happens. Another example, signing days for athletes. An athlete can sign a letter of intent to go to college right there in their room at their desk. But they create these events for athletes where, hey, we're going to bring everybody here and we're going to celebrate the fact that you're signing this thing. Those are big deals for employees. This is the floor of the house where my wife and I had a picnic the night we closed on our first house together. Buying a house is actually a terrible experience. Getting the house is a great experience, but I remember it positively because we did this, and that's what I remember looking back on it. And so what the book says is that you can do this for your employee, when they talk about your personal lives too, but when they talk about how you can do these things for your employees, page 1 of the book says that the first day of work is a missed opportunity at most workplaces. And I read this and I thought, these guys are ripping me off right now. But it's absolutely true that you can create these things. And when you go out of your way to look for these examples or to create them, you can have these peak moments for your employees that when they look back on last week or last month or last year, the memories are more positive than they would be had they not experienced these types of things. 2 places they say you can look for these for your employees. One is transitions, like the first day, or moving to a new department, or moving to a new office, or getting promoted. These are transitions that can be turned into key moments. And you can also do them with milestones. We have created some milestones at CollegeWise that aren't professionally necessary, but they create these key moments. We wanted to show our counselors a visible, measurable way to show their progress as a counselor at our job. So we created an award called the Master Counselor Award, which says if you have worked here for at least 3 years and you've helped at least 100 kids apply to college, you are now a master counselor, which means you can train new counselors that we hire. But when they achieve that, you can't see it here, but when you give them we give them a plaque that is engraved with all the names of the kids that they have helped apply to college. And this hangs proudly in their offices. This is something they talk to their families about, but more importantly, this is something that other people see and they say, I want one of those too. Like, that's valued here, that looks really cool. I see something I want to work towards, and we get all this lift around it where it costs us, $80 to make a plaque and just to make it a thing that we do, and the return on investment of that is just immeasurable, I mean, at least for us. The book also talks about the 80-20 chasm, which is if you ask managers, do you give regular recognition positively to your employees, 80% of them will say yes. If you ask employees, do you regularly receive positive feedback from your manager, 20% of them say yes. So that is a huge chasm that somehow the workplace needs to reconcile. And again, things you guys don't need to be convinced of, but something that we can all focus on together. Make recognition a stronger part of your culture, and embrace personal, resist programmatic. The more programmatic it becomes, the more it's just, this is something you do for everybody in exactly the same way, the less of a key moment it is. Even that master counselor certification, not everybody gets that. You got to be here for a while, but that's why we engrave the names of the kids. Is the person next door to me might have their own master counselor certification, but I get to look up there and think to myself, those are all the kids that are in college today in part or in full because of the work that I've done. And so those are some of the things that we think about. Is this revolutionary? No, but it makes revolutionary results for us, and it's why we're looking even more for more ways that we can do this at our place now. That great recognition makes employees feel noticed. It's a way of communicating to them, I noticed what you did and I appreciated it. That can be on a day-to-day basis, but can also be on these bigger moments that we're creating for them. Something else you might hear from naysayers. I'm too busy to do this. Right? So you'll hear from leadership at companies, they'll say, this sounds great, I totally hear what you're saying, but I can't do it. I'm too busy leading. Right? I mean, it's like I just cannot be bothered with this. And I would say, well, first of all, I think that getting the best out of your people is part of leadership. But this is the argument I would make to anyone who wants to get in your way of doing these kinds of things. I would say, we're going to spend this time either way. So we can spend it on the back end and try to make disengaged workplaces more engaged. We can try to help people that are falling out of love with their jobs fall back in love with their jobs. We can spend time and money recruiting people to replace positions of those who left for greener employment pastures, or we can spend the time on the front end for the people that are already here to make them happier, to make them more engaged. Which would you rather do? Because it's going to happen either way. And that will turn some people around on this way of thinking that I can't spend the time to do this. I'd also remind them, this is a lot more about paying attention than it is about giving attention. We're not doing this stuff with people every day. It's not like every day we find a way to celebrate you. Sometimes you just got to come and go to work. But we'll look and make sure that everybody has semi-regular opportunities with the company that we present to them to acknowledge these moments and give them those peak experiences to think about. Somebody says, we're too big to do this. We're a big company. We're a big company. We've got lots of people. We can't be expected to look at these individuals. I would say, well, even the biggest companies are made up of individual human beings, right, who have their own thoughts and feelings about their jobs. You would also never say, well, we're too big to take good care of our customers. If you can't be too big to take good care of your customers, how can you be too big to take good care of the people who are taking care of the customers? Side note, I know we're here to learn how to take good care of employees. This works for engaging your customers, too. We do exactly the same kinds of things with people in our program. When a kid submits her first college application, we know when that's going to happen. We tell the parents ahead of time, hey, just so you know, Tuesday she's going to submit her first college application in case you wanted to be here to see it. The parents, they hire us so they don't have to be involved with helping their kids apply to college. They say, I don't want to be the bad cop. You guys be the bad cops. They come to the meetings, and what do they ask us to do? Please take a picture of this. There's the key moment. They want to be there watching his daughter apply to college, the very first one. They want to see this thing happen with their kid. We do the same thing or something similar when the student submits his or her final college application. We invite them to come into our office to do it there, and when they're there, they get to bang this gong in our office to celebrate that you are done. Now, mind you, these kids are not even into college yet. All they have done is finished applying. We have hundreds of testimonials from our customers, and very few of them mention where the kid is going to college. They say things like, you changed this experience for us, that you made this a joyful time in our family. Kids say things like, I was done before all of my friends. If anybody works in marketing here, what's the first thing all these people do when they get the video or the picture? They go post it to social media and say, I just finished my college applications at my college counselor's office, and we get the free advertising from it. So this works with customers as well. If you have anybody who says, can't we all just do our jobs? You know, it's hard enough for me just to keep my partner and my kids happy, and like, do I really have to do this for our employees? Well, you know, I would say, certainly, I can see the argument for that, The more we treat it just like a job and just like employees, the more I think we can expect the same back from them. I think they're going to say, yeah, I'll show up on time, I'll do what I'm told, I'll leave on time, I'll do nothing more than that. And or they're always going to be just one potentially more attractive offer away from leaving. We've had very few people leave CollegeWise over the years, and actually when people do leave, the average amount of time of notice they give us is 6 months. We've had people give us as much as a year of notice before they leave. We, in our 19-year history, have only ever one time had an employee give us 2 weeks' notice and say, I'm leaving. And that saves our recruiting costs. It saves the trouble of having to find new people and train them. So we get a lot from this. Will this scale? If you hear that from people, first of all, I just feel like that question is one that people love to throw out in meetings. You guys might have seen this article that came out. It's a satirical article that came out last year of 10 tricks to appear smart in meetings. You can guess what number 6 is. But the more realistic answer is, you don't need to scale this. Just prove that you can do it with a small team. Prove that you can do it with your direct reports. Prove that you can do it for just a few people, then worry about how to scale it. We don't spend a lot of time institutionalizing this around our company. We have certain people that will take it on, but they seem to duplicate themselves with other employees. We don't care if you do it exactly the same way. That if somebody in our Singapore or our China or our Vietnam office doesn't get a pennant for their employee on the first day, I'm okay with that, as long as they know, they have an experience of their own first day, and they know our expectation is that you will make that person feel special and you will give them a story to tell. I don't care if you do it exactly the same way as the rest of us do. What's the ROI? There's another one, man. Like, that is fair question so many times, especially, you got to be a financially sound company or you're just on your fast track to bankruptcy. But this question can also just be a soul-sucking force of financing, right? And I would say, well, it's hard for me to measure the ROI of doing something like celebrating an anniversary, but I can tell you the Gallup organization has measured the ROI of employee engagement. And an engaged workplace has 37% lower absenteeism, 25% lower turnover in high turnover organizations, 65% lower turnover in low turnover organizations, 10% higher customer metrics, 21% higher productivity, and 22% higher profitability. So there is a return on the investment. Now, that's not the entirety of engagement doing these nice things, but in that Gallup employee engagement survey, in which, again, there are 12 statements, only 12, that they say measure the health of the workplace. Question 5 is this. Sorry, that's 4, and this is question 5. So they matter. They do make a difference. They do contribute to this engagement, which does have a return on investment. And the non-numerical approach for me to describing the benefit of this, and then I'll wrap up here, is investment in a human is a deposit. It's not an expense. You're going to get a lot back from that. These peak moments accrue interest. They don't forget about them the next day. They hold on to them, and it keeps paying you back over and over again. An investment in one is an investment in many. When you do these things for people, everyone else around them sees this happening and feels better about where they work, as long as they can expect similar treatment. Employees reinvest in other employees. You don't have to do it all yourself. They'll turn around and pay it forward to other people. That goodwill is credit in the emotional bank. You're not going to get it right all the time as an employer. Sometimes you're going to have to take someone to task. Sometimes there's going to be a particularly stressful time at work. Sometimes they're going to have an appealing offer from somewhere else. They're going to have those leaving moments, and these peak moments will stay with them, and they'll crash those potential tough times. They'll crash it against these good memories that they have. And the delighted employees are better able to delight those customers. I see this must be a peak moment. You guys are pulling your cameras out. I'll leave that up there for a second. Right? So in my wrap-up here, my 60-second wrap-up here, and then whatever time we've got left, we can take questions. I know we're sort of at my time here, so people can go if you're done here. So what's the next step? I say just try it. Don't worry about going back and trying to create a huge program to do any of these kinds of things or any of your own ideas. I would say just pick one transition or milestone, one that exists already or one that you could create for your people. Imagine it was your child, your partner, your sibling, your best friend. How would you want them treated in that moment? And then create a peak moment around that event. Create something that will make that person say, I got to get a picture of this, and or I'm going to tell people about this. Lead by example, which is just do it yourself. Do it for your own team. Do it for a department. Or enlist willing volunteers and say, I'm going to start doing this. Does anyone else want to join me in this? And most importantly, if you enlist volunteers and if you try to change minds at your company, define the desired outcomes, not the precise steps. If you define the precise steps, that's the programmatic part, you're removing the humanity and it becomes more kind of rote and just routine, where if you just say, our desired outcome is that someone feels like we noticed their anniversary and we cared about them and that they matter to us. Here are some things we've done in the past. You've got an employee who's about to celebrate that. Find your own best way to do it, and then you can share best practices in your company. So I just want to say in closing here, thank you to everybody for coming to my session, and thank you for joining me in fighting the good fight to keep our people happy and to create great places to work. We spend so much of our lives at work. The world needs more people like us fighting that fight. So thanks so much for being here. I'll take any questions, but it's also time up if anybody wants to leave. I'm happy to.